Welcome to City League Sports, where we pay homage and give some love to sports in Columbus City Schools. I am your host, Dr. Vincent Clarino, and today we are honored to have a very special guest, the one, the only, Mr. Archie Griffin. For those of you that don't know, or you're just too young to really understand, Archie Griffin's legacy is completely intact. This is a gentleman who has done so many things for the worlds of sports, the world of athletics, the world of football, the world of Central Ohio, and Columbus City Schools, the Ohio State University. We're honored to have you here this morning. Joining me also today from Columbus City Schools is Mr. Terry Anderson. This morning, we together will be able to chop it up a little bit here today with Mr. Archie Griffin. And Archie, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today? The both of you.
Wonderful.
Doing fine, sir. Thank you.
So, hey, we're honored that you carved out some time here to be with us. I want to dive right in for a moment and almost stretch your brain to go back a little bit. And the theme of this question will be character. But more importantly, so, for those of you that don't know, Archie was in high school in the late 60s, early 70s. And then from there transitions from Columbus Eastmoor, what is now Eastmoor Academy, but from Columbus Eastmoor and goes on to Ohio State. But just tell us a little bit, what was it like growing up in Columbus in the 60s, being in high school in the late 60s, early 70s? What was that like?
Well, I thought it was wonderful. I had a great time in high school. I've got some great memories of high school. The people that I went to school with at Eastmoor, certainly the sports that I had the opportunity to play in high school, I participated in 3 sports, played football, of course, but I also wrestled and ran track, and I had a marvelous time in high school. As a matter of fact, those are some of the best memories that I had, really. I mean, it was just terrific. Really enjoyed it. At Eastmoor at the time, it was a mixed high school, and it was my first time actually having had the opportunity to be in that type of situation. And it worked out extremely well. Relationships were very, very well amongst the blacks, whites, Jewish populations that we had at that time. It was a great time. I cherished the memories that I had when I was in high school.
Nice. So that's one of those pieces for you young people out there that are listening. Understand that, here is someone who's had opportunities all over the planet, has seen everything, and Archie has been in so many different venues and whatnot. And then yet those high school experiences are something that you can think about, recall. They're warm memories in your world. And so a question that I have is I'm not sure if you've read Will Haygood's book, Tigerland, or if you're aware of it. Tigerland, speaks to some of the accomplishments that was going on at East High School, down the street from you,
right,
when you were in high school. So as a kid, kids today, they have all this social media, right? And they can connect to what other people are doing at sister schools. Were you aware as a kid, what was going on at another school? Did you know who those other athletes were? Like when you were in high school, who'd you know that was also really out there getting it? You know what I mean? It was on that stage that you think that, maybe you didn't know you were on that stage, but you were pretty darn talented, right? So, and we'll get to that. But was there someone else that caught your attention around Central Ohio, whether it be the guys from East or any other school?
Oh, absolutely. I come from a fairly large family of 6 brothers and a sister. So I have older brothers. And one of my oldest brother went to East High School, as a matter of fact. He's 6 years older than I am, and I'm 67, be 68 in August. And then my second oldest brother graduated from Lyndon McKinley. And then myself, Daryl, who's older than I am, he graduated from Eastmoor. I graduated from Eastmoor, Raymond and Duncan, and the rest of us graduated from Eastmoor. So, yeah, I was aware of the outstanding athletes that were in high school because of my older brothers. I mean, my older brothers were in high school. And quite frankly, I looked up to my older brothers. My brother Jimmy, who played at East High School, played football there, played baseball there, and also ran track there. I mean, yeah, he was pretty good. I grew up on the east side on Rich Street, so I had the opportunity to be around a lot of those athletes that played at East High School that were older than me, that were at the age or a little bit below my brother Jimmy. But yeah, those East High School basketball teams were phenomenal. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. The Eddie Rattlers and that crew,
Right.
the White Loki Lamar. I mean, those guys were fabulous, and I certainly looked up to them. We all looked up to them because of the accomplishments that they had and the things that they were doing. Then when my family moved out from the east side to the north end, out to the Linden area, we moved right down the street from Linden McKinley. My brother Larry was at Linden McKinley High School, and he was doing pretty good himself. He was tearing it up in football. He was all city, all district, and he made all state, and ended up going to the University of Louisville, and did a great job there. And so I was following football back then, and at that time, Larry Davis at Linden McKinley was an outstanding running back at Linden McKinley High School, along with my brother Larry. And they had some truly outstanding players at Linden McKinley High School. As a matter of fact, one of the best high school football games that I ever saw was Linden McKinley playing Eastmoor at Eastmoor. It had to be 1968.
Okay.
Had to be 1968. And I mean, it was a battle. It was at Eastmoor. And at that time, I was rooting for Linden McKinley because my brother Larry and my brother Daryl were both playing for Linden McKinley. And that was a game that was just awesome. I mean, it went down to the wire, and they had some great players at Eastmoor, and Linden McKinley had some great players, and I mean, it was truly a battle. And I'll never forget that game. It was one of the best high school football games that I ever saw. Linden McKinley ended up winning that football game, and at the time, that's who I was rooting for because of my two of my older brothers that were playing at Linden McKinley. But there was some outstanding talent in the City League during those days, and no, I'll never forget those guys. They were role models for people like myself, and we wanted to go to high school and kind of do the things that they were doing. Fortunately, I had that opportunity to do what I love doing at Eastmoor High School, and it worked out pretty well. But yeah, they were role models for us.
Mr. Griffin, you alluded to the fact that your family transitioned from different areas of the city before you landed at Eastmoor. When your brother perhaps was at Linden McKinley, you perhaps may have been in middle school at Linmore Middle School, I believe, in our conversation that we had a few weeks ago. You mentioned of a gentleman there, Mr. Gill, that said a few things to you that allowed to help shape your character and your career as well. Do you want to expand upon that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Gill was a huge inspired in my life, and just about everywhere I go to this day, I talk about Mr. Gill and the 3Ds, because that's what I learned from 3Ds: desire, dedication, and determination. Desire, setting goals for yourself; dedication, committing yourself to achieving the goals; and determination, being able to overcome the obstacles that might get in your way. Mr. Gill, he was a junior high school guidance counselor. He was an advisor for our student council, and I thought he was a tremendous man. And in the junior high school, I served as president of our student council, and which we called Helpers Engaged in Linmore's Progress. And it was a wonderful experience for us. It was a great leadership experience for me, and I really appreciated that opportunity. But I really appreciated more the words that Mr. Gill would share with us at the time that he would spend with us, because he left, without a doubt, a lasting impression on me. And again, I talk about him to this day. Every speech that I make, just about, I talk about Mr. Gill, because my success, I believe, is due to those 3Ds. I mean, I always call that my formula for success: desire, dedication, and determination. And I got that from Mr. Gill.
Powerful.
And I'll never forget it.
You know, it's interesting that you share that because something you just said a moment ago was about the time. You know, you said the time he invested in you all.
Mm.
And that's the part that I think sometimes people overlook. Like, you know, one of the things that my father always shared with me as well, you're speaking about just lasting impressions and those types of conversations, is that, you know, the one thing that you can give that is free but has so much wealth to it, so much value, is time. Right? If someone gives their time to you, that is more valuable than the dollars that they can give. And I'm not saying that writing checks aren't important, right? But being able to give your time, to roll up your sleeves and invest in a project, invest in a person, invest in a kid, invest in an obstacle, invest in a task. There's nothing that duplicates that. I want to circle back for a moment, right? Because you shared what was a really interesting piece a moment ago. You said one of the best games that you ever saw was this game involving Lyndon, and then here you were a couple years later, right, as a senior at Eastmoor, and at one point, right, you're rooting for Lyndon, and then now here you are on this stage, and you're playing in the championship game against Lyndon. And obviously, yeah. So tell me a little bit about those emotions, right? I mean, let's give people a peek behind that curtain, because that's a doozy where, you know, especially for a young kid to go through that transition of emotions in 2 or 3 years. 1 minute you're young and you're rooting for Lyndon, and then here you are and you're suiting up and you're putting on your Eastmoor helmet to go out and play against Lyndon. So let us hear a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, that my senior year at Eastmoor would have been the 1971 football season. It was the first year that the City League had a North-South championship game. And that in itself was exciting, because depending on what side, if you were in the North, you were looking forward to trying to get in that championship game. If you were in the South, as we were looking forward to trying to get to that championship. That's where we wanted to be. And then from our standpoint, that championship game just happened to be against Lyndon McKinley. And Lyndon McKinley I knew everybody on Lyndon McKinley's football team, because I grew up with them on the north side. So you can imagine how excited I was to be able to play in the championship game against guys that I knew extremely well. As a matter of fact, some of my best friends were on the Lyndon McKinley football team. As a matter of fact, I have to think of a good friend, a guy by the name of Tom Pickney. He used to always come over to my house. We'd go out to proprietary nights together when we're not playing football and stuff. And I'd go out with a lot of Lyndon kids, because I just knew them so well. But Tom Pickney came over Saturday before that championship game, the Saturday before the championship game, and he knew I had a bad ankle. And he came over, I was laying in my bed, and he did it. And our house was his house. I mean, he could come over, he'd walk around. He knew my parents well, and he walked upstairs. He said, "I know you got a bad ankle." And he grabbed me by the ankle and started acting like he was twisting it and whatnot. So we got a good laugh out of that. I mean, it was just a lot of fun having that opportunity to play against them. I mean, we really, really looked forward to that. I remember the day before the game, and I don't know if it was the Adonis Club or one of the service clubs had a luncheon, and they were honoring both Lyndon McKinley and Eastmoor for playing in the championship game. And I remember Lyndon's coach. He came up to me, and he probably he wouldn't know how much he affected me when he did this, but he came up and he looked at me and he put his hand on my chest and he said, "You're not that big. We can stop you." And I said, "Oh my goodness!" And that came out of nowhere.
Right.
That fired me up so much that you cannot believe.
Oh, that's beautiful.
We went back to Eastmoor. We had our pep rally for the game, and Coach Stewart mentioned that during the pep rally, and my teammates, I mean, they got all fired up there, and so it was just unbelievable. And we went out there. It was a game was played on a Saturday, and we went out there and we got the best of them. We won that football game. So we had the honor of being the first City League championship team that was decided between the North and the South. And that is a true honor. I mean, that was very, very special. That's another one of those memories that you'll never, ever forget. It was televised on cable TV. And, at that time, it was probably really, really big for for high school students to be on cable TV, being televised, and I'll never forget that. It was wonderful. And my brother Ray played in that game as well, so he knew just about everybody on Lyndon McKinley's team also, because he played for the Little League Linden Eagles, who were very, very popular at that time at Little League ball. And Raymond played a lot of his Little League, all of his Little League, pretty much with the Linden Eagles, so he knew everybody on those teams as well. So it was a great deal of fun. And again, it's a memory that I'll never, ever forget. You have those memories like that, and you cherish them. I mean, you really, really do.
Right.
Because not only was your team special to you, that other team was kind of special as well, because you knew them so well.
Certainly.
And they were friends. And I just enjoyed that so much, to have that opportunity. And I'm glad that it certainly turned out the way it turned out. Because I've got those bragging rights right now.
That's right.
I come in contact with all of my friends from the Linden area who grew up in the Linden area with me. But it was really, really very, very special. As a matter of fact, my girlfriend at the time was at Lyndon McKinley. So
there you go.
So she had to deal with them razzing her about playing up.
Yeah, so, but you got the last laugh on that one. You know, the beauty of that one.
And we still get laughs today. So
there you go.
It was.
Well, City League sports fans, you got a chance to hear it. Like that's a phenomenal story. I'm blessed to even have a chance to hear it. And I'm going to do this for you, right? Just for all those Linden folks out there that are going to get a chance to listen. Archie gave Linden 267 yards that day. I mean, that's beautiful, right? So like when you think, for those of you that think you know football, if somebody rushes for 100, that's a good game. Somebody rushes for 200, that's a good game. That's a special game. But when you go 250 plus, that means that you was just running up and down the field on Linden. I appreciate you sharing that story. I want to transition now, and I want to use this word as like a focal point for a moment. And the word is character. So like you've had this, really almost like storybook. I think for people who are on the outside, you've had a storybook life. You grow up here in Central Ohio. You use your talents on. Obviously on the football field and other platforms athletically to be able to change your trajectory forever. Ohio State. I haven't mentioned it yet because I think your name just automatically goes with the 2 Heismans. We'll get to that a little bit here in a minute. I know you got to transition, but so character. Talk to everyone, like almost to our young people. Talk to us about character. Share why character is important. And just kind of like how you've lived your life. So if you can, just give us anything that pops in your mind when you hear the word character, where it came from, who instilled it in you, what you believe are those important things. I think our listeners would really be able to benefit from that.
Character, good character is so very, very important. And I feel really fortunate, Terry, that coming from the family that I came from, my mother and father, they gave all of us, all of their 8 kids, priorities to live by. And that first one was for all of us to always trust God. And the second one was for us to get an education, a college education. And the third one was for all of us to participate in sports. They wanted us to trust God first because they always said if God's in control of your life, then he can help you in any situation that you might find yourself in. And I certainly believe that. And again, secondly, they wanted to get an education, a college education. They wanted to have a college education because that was something that they didn't get. And their dream was for all of us to get it. And that was a dream come true for them because all 8 of us did get a college education. And that third one was for all of us to participate in sports. And they want us to participate in sports because of the lessons that we learn in sports. The will to win, cope with pressure, being along in a team situation, all those things are so very, very important. But the thing they like most about athletics, and especially about a game like football, is that when you get involved in football, you learn how to get up once you get knocked down. And that's one of those lessons.
I love that one right there.
That's right. You can benefit from that for your life because things don't always go the way that you want them to go. You have tough times with adversity. In order to be successful, you got to be able to deal with the tough times and adversity. But one of the things that I remember that they always talked to us about was treating people right. Treating people right. It goes back to the golden rule. Do unto others as you wish them to do unto you. And that's what I've always just tried to do. Treat people right.
Mr. Archie, I gotta dive in. Mr. Archie, I gotta dive in and share a quick story. I apologize, but you gotta hear this real quickly because you just teed up my next comment. So I reached out to some people and I said, hey, share with me your best Archie story. And what you just shared makes this one pop into my head. So a gentleman who was a kind of an up-and-coming beat writer here in Central Ohio, used to play some pickup games at a time when you were an adult at the Cages over on Ohio State's campus, some pickup basketball games. And this guy really wasn't someone that knew you and wasn't necessarily in your world other than these pickup basketball games. And he shared that he was out to dinner. His parents came into Columbus, and he was out to dinner with his parents, and you happened to come into the restaurant where they were dining at. And he said that he would always tell his parents that, I get to play basketball with Archie Griffin, 2-time Heisman Trophy winner. And, when you say that and you're sharing that type of story, I don't know if you know you're bigger than life here in Columbus, but you are. Every time you go someplace, people point you out. They're looking at you. I can think of times when I've seen you, and everyone in my family knows who you are. So when we see you, we always go, look, there goes Archie and whatnot. But so this guy was sharing this with his parents, and he said that out of nowhere, you came over and said hello. And he said that made his whole world. And that guy's name is Steve Blackledge. And so Steve shared that he had an opportunity, and his parents walked away. Just sitting there, he said, in amazement at the fact that here their son is, and he actually knows, right? Archie Griffin, the 2-time Heisman Trophy winner. And so for you just shared treat people right. And I think that story goes along with that as an example. So you're always giving it back and paying it forward. So like, from an advice standpoint, as we start to, wind down here, I know we want to be respectful of your time. Like what's the advice you would give to a high school kid, or some young person who's maybe trying to find their way? They're listening, they tune in to City League Sports, and they're listening to the three of us here today. What's advice you would give to a young person?
It's kind of, Terry, kind of what I talk about some of the advice. It may seem odd to say this, but the advice that my folks gave to me, and that is, keep your priorities in order and try to do the right thing. Treat people the way that you want to be treated. And believe me, if you do that, good things will happen for you. But also, back to Mr. Oscar Hill, to get anything, you got to work for it. You got to totally commit yourself to being the best that you could be. And when you add those 3 Ds, that desire, dedication, and determination up, you add those things up. That's what those things equal, a total commitment, being the very best that you could be. So if there was any advice that I could give anybody, it would be those things. So treat people right. Totally commit yourself to be the best you can be. And again, that's the 3 Ds. Because those things are what helped me along. They guided me. And certainly my folks had a tremendous impact with me on those priorities. So keep those priorities in order and just follow that. And I think you'll be fine. And remember, too, that first priority for us was always believe in God, strong belief in God.
Certainly. And so I think if someone tuned in and they listened today, they got a real treat. They got an opportunity to hear, behind the curtain, right? Like nothing gets better than the Saturday before the big game and you being at home with one of your buddies and you all joshing about, a sore ankle, which clearly wasn't that sore, right? Because you was able to go out and put up.
It bothered that ankle bothered me all year long. I mean, it really did.
Yeah.
And Tom knew that.
Yeah.
Because we used to laugh about it.
That's toughness. That's perseverance. That's what that's the type of perseverance that develops and growing up in a home of 8 kids. And you know what I mean? And you having parents that have the character that you spoke about today, the beliefs, the focus to be able to raise you and your siblings to be, just great contributors to our world here in Columbus, Ohio. I want to take us out of here on so what I like to do with a special guest like you, and we've been kind of leading the direction of the discussion, but I want to give you here as we wind down, and we'll feed off of you. Is there any story that just pops into your mind, whether it's time at Eastmoor, time at Lynn-Moore, non-football story, at Ohio State, with the Bengals, whatever experience you have, is there something that you think a young person could hear from a story, a challenge, an opportunity, whatever it may be, and then Terry and I we'll feed off of whatever you say. So do you have anything that pops into your mind that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do. And this would be my experience at Ohio State. When I was coming out of Eastmoor High School and being recruited by a number of different colleges, a lot of people told me that I shouldn't go to Ohio State. They told me that I was too small and that Coach Hayes only recruited big backs well over 200 pounds. And they told me if I go to Ohio State that I was going to get lost in the shuffle because Ohio State had over 100 ball players and I'd be better off going to a smaller school. And being an athlete, I kind of thought I knew my abilities better than anyone else. So I took that as a challenge to go to Ohio State. And I'll never forget when I reported to camp in 1972, summer of 1972, I was put at the back. But 1972 was also the very first year that freshmen were eligible to play.
Ding, ding, ding.
And with that being the case, my number one goal was to make the varsity team because I wanted to prove to everybody who said that I could not play at Ohio State. I wanted to prove to them that I could play at Ohio State. But when I reported to camp, I was put at the back, and at that time, being put at the back kind of meant playing on the 15 and playing on the 15 and playing on the scout squad. And that's kind of like the meat squad. We were the guys that took the beating every day in practice from the first teamers. Our job was to run the opposing team plays while the first team defense got their practice off of us. Well, that year, our first game was a home game, and it was against the University of Iowa. And because it was a home game, Coach Woody Hayes allowed everybody to dress because he believed that if you practice for Ohio State, you should be identified in the Ohio State University uniform at a home game. And I was really happy about that because that could at least show that I was part of the team, even though we had 3 number 45s at that time on that team. So the night before that game, he took the varsity way to the hotel, and we stayed in the dormitory. We met up with the team, played against Iowa. We were beating Iowa pretty bad. Fourth quarter, a couple minutes going the game, Coach Hayes put a few freshmen in, and I was one of those freshmen. And I can remember going into the game thinking this was my big chance. If I could get in there and maybe make a touchdown or maybe make a big play, he might put me on that varsity. Well, I went into the game and got into the huddle. To my surprise, first play call was an 18 sweep, and that was a pitch out to me going around the right side. And we broke the huddle, lined up in our formation. Quarterback started calling the signals, and we started calling the signals. I got to thinking, I said, I wonder if our offensive line is going to open up the same type of hole for me as they've opened up for our other running backs to run through. Because all day long, they had been making these big, huge holes for our running backs to run through. And I wonder whether they're going to do the same thing for me. Well, the ball was snapped, and as soon as the ball was snapped, I did something that was fundamentally wrong. You see, if you're a running back or a receiver, you're going to get a pitch out or a pass. I don't have to tell you guys, there's some fundamental things that you're taught from day one in Little League football. You got to look the ball into your hands. You got to watch it come from the quarterback's hands right into your own hands. But when the ball was snapped, I focused my attention on the hole in which I was going to run through. When I looked towards the hole, I was shocked because those guys had opened up a huge hole for me. Well, me with my eyes on the hole, the quarterback pitched the ball to me, the ball hit me in the hands, and I fumbled. And as you can imagine, that was a huge disappointment. Coach Hayes took me out of the football game, and quite frankly, I thought that I had blown my big opportunity. I remember going home that night, and my dad noticed something was wrong with me. He asked me about it, and I told him, I said, Daddy, I don't know that I'll get another chance this year, being a freshman, being a 15th tailback, being on the scout squad, just having fumbled. I don't know that I'll get another chance. But my father, like he'd always do, gave me encouragement. And he told me, he said, you know what? They would not have put you in the game if they didn't think you could play.
Ooh, great advice from a dad.
Just keep working hard, doing what you were doing. And I went back to practice that next week. I was still the 15 tailback, still on the scout squad, still taking that beat every day for the first team. But our next game was also a home game, and it was against the University of North Carolina. And again, because it was a home game, everybody was allowed to dress. Night before the game, varsity went away to the hotel. We as freshmen were very agreed. Stayed in the dormitory, met up with the varsity game at the stadium. Game against North Carolina started, first quarter. North Carolina blocked the punt of ours, went ahead of us 7-0. Then all of a sudden, midway through the first quarter, called from the bench, called Griffin. Kept calling Griffin. Now, I knew he wasn't talking to me. I mean, I was a 15 tailback. Couldn't have meant me. But they kept calling Griffin. I was the only Griffin on the team, so I went up to Coach Hayes. He grabbed me by the shoulder pad, told me to go in the tailback. Right then, I got all excited. I went to run into the game, and one of my teammates called me back. Because in all the excitement, I pretty much forgot to take my helmet with me. I almost forgot to take my helmet with me. Well, I went into the game, and all I can tell you is that I was in a daze the whole time. My number was being called. I was running with the ball. I know that I played about 2.5 quarters. And I know that, it was going pretty good. But I knew that I played about 2.5 quarters. When I came out of the game in the beginning of the fourth quarter, the 86,000 fans of an Ohio Stadium, they still gave me a standing ovation. And they did that because in those 2.5 quarters, I rushed for 239 yards, which at that time was an Ohio State rushing record. And I'll never, ever forget that feeling I had leaving that field, seeing those 86,000 fans stand up. I mean, that was...
That is special.
Yeah, it really was. It's a memory that I'll never, ever forget. That certainly was a springboard to my career at Ohio State University. And when I think about it, guys, I counted it as a miracle, Dr. Clarno, because the night before that game, when I prayed, as I do every night, I asked the good Lord of above to give me a chance to play in the game, which is a chance to help me play to the best of my ability. And he did that for me. And to this day, I'm so very, very thankful for that, because I believe that that was a springboard to my career.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that story, Mr. Griffin. That was an amazing story. I got goosebumps just now when you told. I was over here shivering in my seat. I'm getting the cues and the signals that we have to wrap up. And I know you said you had to be somewhere. We are more than pleased here in Columbus City Schools for you to join us here this morning. I will say, as part, I got to do the outro. You got to do all the important stuff. But I will say, you shared something just now. You said in that first game, there was 3 number 45s walking around on the sidelines with the number 45 on. There's only 1 45 retired at Ohio State, and that's 45 Griffin, right? So there might have been a bunch of 45s walking around, but there's only 1 45 up in that stadium. That's your 45. You are our 45 as well. We appreciate you here, City League Sports, Columbus City Schools. Appreciate your time. I'm appreciative of, Terry Anderson joining me here this morning and the opportunity to speak with you. I'm going to do the formal stuff, and then we're going to get out of here. I wish you nothing but blessings as you continue to move forward. So I got to read the script for a moment here, and I want to say that that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening. Special shout out to our guest today, Mr. Archie Griffin, for coming through and being here with us. Be sure to catch us on all future episodes on WCBE Radio. You can also catch us on Spotify, Apple, or the platform you prefer to listen to all your favorite podcasts. We are City League Sports. Until next time, I'm Vince Clarno, and we are out of here. Mr. Griffin, thank you. It was a blessing and an honor today.
Thanks to both of you. Really appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
Thank you, Archie. Appreciate you.